Welcome to the Candle Business Coach Podcast, a show about the craft of candle making and small business. I'm your host, Kirsty Allen, and I'm a candle maker, mum of three, and kindness advocator. Join me as I dive into all things candles and small business and deliver advice and tips to you in episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Are you on the list to get my daily motivation emails? Every day I'll send you a message that is designed to help keep you focused on taking action toward your goals. Sign up using the link in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by the membership for candle makers, the Candle Makers Collective. Becoming a member gives you access to fortnightly online group Q&A coaching sessions to support you, monthly online workshops and trainings to help you grow your business, plus frequent expert guest speakers to inspire and teach you. You'll also have access to an ever-growing resource library with templates, guides, planners, and ebooks. But my favorite aspect of the membership is our exclusive Facebook group for accountability, connection and support. So if you're looking to take your candle business to the next level and learn more about the membership for candle makers, click the link in the show notes for the Candle Makers Collective. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. Today we have the beautiful Erika from Mac and Ernie to talk to us about so many different things, but it'll be an amazing conversation regardless. So Erika, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm Erika. I don't even know really where to start. I feel like I've just been around forever. I've got two kids. I live on Gunai country in a little town called Warragul, which isn't so little anymore. We've been here about 12 years and it's a really special place for me. And I often say that if I hadn't moved to the country when I did, probably would never have started my own business. I made so many wonderful choices and wonderful connections down here that, I think if I'd stayed in Melbourne, I would have just kept kicking around ad agencies and feeling stressed and miserable. Yeah, I mean, I can introduce my business. I've been working in advertising and marketing for about, for over 25 years now, which is a bit crazy. But around 8 years ago, I started my own thing, which is Mac and Ernie. And I work with a lot of organizations like local government, franchises, healthcare groups, business groups, and lots more. And I offer social media training and marketing strategy. So I offer that to their people. So their groups and teams. And I also work a lot with individual businesses. That's kind of my passion, which I love working with regional and rural businesses to help them find their place in their own communities and give them the confidence and skills to kind of reach out into new areas and grow their business. And as I always say, stop stressing and guessing about their social media and marketing. Probably enough about me.
Why are you so passionate? Like, where did this passion stem from?
I think one of the first things I did when I moved to the country was I started a farmer's market with a friend. And doing that, I met a lot of small, like really micro, small businesses, mostly obviously farmers and producers and things like that. And I really started to get a sense of how hard it was to be a small business, but also how important small businesses are in a community. And I just love working with people. And I think there's something in, for me personally, I get a lot out of seeing their results, seeing their successes. It's very direct. You don't really get to do that as much with larger organizations like I used to work when I worked in kind of corporate land. So I don't know. I just feel like small businesses they're just the best. They're just the best.
They are. I would definitely agree with that. I think it's so fascinating that when you find something you're passionate about, whether you fall into it or you actively search for it, when you realize that it lights you up and you can have direct results and help other people find their success as well, and you can be a part of that journey, it's such a joy to be involved in that way.
It really does. And I mean, you'd be the same because you'd be working with really only small businesses, I guess.
Yeah.
And there is something so special about seeing a direct impact from the advice that you give or from the confidence that you give someone. I mean, that's like a tiny little part of my passion, but it's a big one.
Yes. Now, I have to admit, I had a little bit of a sneaky peek at your Instagram just to see what you've been posting lately. And I noticed that you've got a bit of a theme where there are many business owners that are afraid or they hesitate when it comes to sharing who they are on social media and in their business. Can you talk to us a little bit about the reasons why people are hesitant to share who they are?
Yeah, I find generally when I'm working with individuals, the first thing that we need to do is work out what their block is. There's always a block. There's always a reason why they're not posting or why they can't or why they're not open to new channels. And it can be like a whole range of things. I think the posts that you might be referring to, I just listed a whole bunch of things, and honestly, some of the blockages that I've dealt with over the years have been just general fear of rejection, embarrassment. It can be really embarrassing or feel really silly when you're doing this stuff. Menopause. Someone actually messaged me about that and said, "What the hell are you talking about?" And I said, like a lot of women that I deal with are going through perimenopause and menopause. And with that comes this really extreme loss of confidence sometimes, or maybe some weight gain, or maybe they're just not feeling like themselves. And so they don't necessarily want to show up on social media. So there's like a whole range of reasons that people have. But for me, I think that the main thing it comes down to is fear and a loss of confidence. People put too much pressure on themselves when it comes to something like social media because there's so much hyperbole out there about how important it is that they feel like if they don't do it well, they're damaging their business. And so sometimes it can be really crippling.
Yes, and it could be not just a fear of failure in terms of, will this post get many likes? Will it have many comments? But on the flip side, a fear of success, and that what if it does really well and my brand gets more exposure and more people see this post and more people see who I am and what I'm about? Then you open yourself up to more, well, we feel that we're going to open ourselves up to more judgment and more criticism, whether that's just internal or whether someone actually does say something out loud to us.
Yeah, that imposter syndrome is a big one. That fear of success. Yeah, fear of success, fear of failure. And also too, like people do say pretty crappy things online, and that could be really hurtful, and not everyone has the ability to deal with that, especially when it's so important to them. Like a small business owners are really connected, like deeply personally connected to their businesses usually. So any kind of criticism, any kind of failures are personal, deeply personal. And when you're doing it online, you're failing online, you're failing in public in your eyes. So if you do a post that doesn't do well, then, or, you feel silly, it's so public. Yeah, but I don't know. You can usually push through.
Yeah, and I think once you bring self-awareness to the block, as you say, then you become, well, more aware of it and you can work on it and work through it rather than have this overarching theme of I'm not able to do ABC. Once you know what that block is, then you can work on it and go, oh, I actually can do this. I actually can work past this. And it becomes that personal growth journey alongside the professional growth as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know that you're an expert when it comes to marketing, so I've definitely got some marketing questions for you. The first one being, do you see that there are many common mistakes that business owners make when it comes to their marketing?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think different businesses do different things. If I'm thinking about the candle industry specifically, there's a lot of copycats, and not just in candle industry, by the way, but there's because we have access to other people's businesses, other people's content all the time, there can be this tendency to cut corners and do what everyone else is doing. And I find that when you're led by your competitors, you miss your own opportunities. You miss the opportunity to talk about why you're special, to do things your way, and sometimes when you're led by your competitors, they might be too far ahead of you. They might be like 5 years down the track and have a really well-established following, really, really well-established brand and customers and stockists or whatever it is. And you are comparing yourself to the middle part of their journey when you're just starting out, and that could be really crippling. So that's that can be a mistake. I mean, I think we can definitely be inspired by other people's content. I think the other thing too is sometimes we get stuck in this idea that things have to be perfect, because we are exposed to what we might see as perfection. There's a lot of amazing creators out there. I'm not one of those. And, if you compare yourself to other people, you can get really stuck creatively. So one of the things that I teach my clients is to create before you get on there and have a look and see what's happening. So if you're going to do some research online, do the research, but make sure that research is being done days from when you're actually creating content yourself, so that you don't get stuck and say, this isn't good enough. I just saw something that was amazing. I can't post mine now, or I just saw that somebody else did this and it was a really good idea and I had the idea myself and now I can't do it. So yeah, I don't know, perfectionism can be a real sticking point.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so it can be so damaging, because if it does keep you stuck, then your business won't grow. You won't grow personally. You stay stagnant, and then nobody wins. You're not inspiring other people to follow their path and go on their journey as well. So it has this ripple effect, which can be really awful if you do find yourself stuck. And if you don't even know that you're stuck, if you don't have that self-awareness, that can be really hard too.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when we're stuck creatively, it's the temptation is to just kind of push through and do something anyway. And that's generally where you make content, or you make choices that aren't right for your business, that aren't right for your brand, that aren't right for your audience, because you feel like, oh my God, I haven't posted in a week, I better slap something up. And then you do something kind of silly. I think one of the other mistakes that people make all the time is not leading with intention, not leading with purpose. And that's really important when it comes particularly to marketing, and particularly to social media, is having a purpose for each piece of content. You don't have to post, there used to be this advice that you could post multiple times a day and that was the best thing to do and you could grow your audience and it was amazing. But if you do that these days, it's generally not a good idea, especially if you have a smaller audience. So really being purposeful with your content and thinking, who am I talking to? Who's this post for? What am I talking about? Making sure that you are being clear that there's a reason why you're posting this. And then making sure that you know what you want your audience to get out of that post. What do you want them to think or feel or do? And then ask them to do that. So a lot of people don't have a call to action in social media, or they think that a call to action has to be buy now, shop now, head to the website. But it doesn't have to be. It can be message me, or leave a comment, or share this, or save this, or, what do you think? Or, it doesn't have to be always. You don't always have to be selling.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to remember we need to add value to our followers and potential customers rather than constantly asking for the sale. Because yes, we want to sell our products, we want to grow our business, but we also need to add value to their journey as well. And to do that, you can do that in a variety of ways, and having different calls to action, calls to action. Yeah, you know what I mean. It means that you can nurture that customer experience, which I know is another huge part of your business and your ethos, is that having an excellent customer experience and really nurturing the people that have invested their time and money in you is so, so valuable.
Customer experience is, it's generally a term that people think is for big business, or it's often confused with customer service. Customer service is usually sort of at that point of sale or that after sale, but customer experience is all of the stuff. And it starts from the very second that somebody comes across you or your products. So making sure that that's tight, that's consistent, and making sure that you understand where people are finding you, how they're finding you, what happens to them. If I'm looking at someone's website results, for example, so I might look at their traffic and they might be getting a lot of traffic from Facebook, but it's not going anywhere. Then you don't say it's Facebook's fault, because Facebook's doing its job. You start to think, well, why are they stopping? Why are they going to my website? Why are they not purchasing from me? What page am I sending them to? What's the information on that? How do I make them feel? What am I doing that's different? Like there's all of these questions that you start to ask yourself when you think about that customer journey and the experience that you're offering. And it goes right to the end. Just the other day I bought, and I won't mention who it was, but I bought something from a small business, and when it arrived, the packaging was so unexpectedly bad that it really struck me. And I think it was because it was all recycled stuff, which I'm totally, totally down for. But it was just presented in such a way that I don't know, it was very jarring compared to the experience of buying, going, following their Instagram, having conversations with them, buying it online. And then I got this package and it was all sort of beat up and scribbled on and like layers and layers of tape. And so not that I won't necessarily influence my decision to buy it again, but it would influence my decision if I was going to gift someone that,
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful that everything kind of matches up and flows into this whole kind of emotional experience that you're giving your customers, especially when candles are a very emotional thing. They're a very personal thing when you think about fragrance and how it makes you feel and what, they're often gifted.
Yeah, absolutely. The customer experience, as you say, is from every touch point along the journey. It's not just about the sale. It's not just about the post feedback of, did you like my product and would you purchase again? You've got to really think about the whole journey and how you can really give them an exceptional experience, but still stay true to your brand and stay true to your mission as well. So you need to have that self-awareness in that regard.
Yeah, it's very hard to describe scent. It's very hard to describe a feeling that somebody's going to get from your product. So making sure that there's no gap, and anybody who's ever listened to me or had anything to do with me will have heard me say this before, but it's really important. The gap between the expectation and the reality of what you offer is where disappointment's most likely to occur. And you set the expectation. You set the expectation with your marketing, with the words that you use, with the quality, with the testimonials that you get. You set this expectation. So if you don't deliver on that, even if the product is good, it's still disappointing. If they're expecting amazing, the best thing ever, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And, if you build it up and they get it and they go, oh yeah, it's pretty good, they're disappointed. Yeah. So, in the same way that they'd be disappointed if it arrived broken or, just not a good product, that's a different kind of disappointment, but still disappointment. So minding that gap is really important. And that's that customer experience. So, you talked about self-awareness. Self-awareness is really important when it comes to marketing because you have to be authentic. You have to be aware of your strengths and you have to be aware of your shortcomings and you have to act on those shortcomings because if you just brush them under the rug, they do start to build up and then you're setting an expectation that's just not being met at the other end.
Yeah, it's so interesting thinking about the expectation and what was the other part you said? Where the gap?
Well, you've got the gap between the expectation and the reality.
That's yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, and I hadn't heard of that before. So thank you for sharing that with us.
No worries.
I'd love to know, there's this thought out there that I've heard many candle makers say, and I'm sure it's across other industries, that we want to have as many followers as possible. We want to get as many people into our world, which on one hand is true, but then we need to make sure we're actually nurturing the people that have, liked our page or that are following us on Instagram, and then making sure that we're serving them because, they're people and they're important and they've given us their time and their likes and their energy and all that. But then we also want to grow into new followers as well. So how do we find that balance between nurturing the people that are already in our world, but also encouraging and attracting other people to come in as well?
having a bit of a strategy when it comes to your marketing, your social media marketing is important. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing, but, really making sure that you understand who your audiences are and the importance of your existing audiences. Your existing audiences, your existing customers are so important. And the last thing that you want to do is make them feel like you're just looking over their shoulder for the next big thing. So when it comes to content, you want to make sure that I could give you an example using Instagram. Instagram stories are 90-something% of the time seen by existing followers. It's just the way that they work. And so thinking about the content that you post in your stories being nurturing, being, that's where you might launch new things, have direct conversations with people, let people in the back end, show them, how you do what you do, the choices that you make and all of that stuff. That's really nurturing. Whereas reels are most often, although there are some changes happening in that space, but reels are most often seen by new people because they appear predominantly in discovery or recommendations. So the difference between the content that you post in reels and stories could be the difference between nurturing and reaching new people. Yeah. So understanding your audience is really important. Making sure that your customer experience for your existing customers is great. I mean, candles don't last that long. So you want to make sure that you get those repeat purchases. And a lot of you out there, you'll have loyalty programs, you'll have discounts, you'll have, refer a friend kind of things. And they're really, really important for existing customers to feel like you're giving them something back for their purchase. There are so many candle brands, so many. And so when somebody buys from you, you want to hang on to them. You want to hang on to them tight because it's so easy to stray and then move on and forget about you. So making sure that you have lots of connection with them through email marketing, discounts, sales, special offers. Personalization is incredibly important. I think too, just to your point about having lots of followers. Look, I think having followers is an important part of your marketing when you're a retail business because people do see that as proof, but it's not going to be the thing that makes you successful, having lots and lots of followers. And if that's all you're chasing, followers, reels, views, the reach, those sorts of things, they're not the right numbers. The right numbers are when every time that little cha-ching goes off on your phone when you make a sale.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. You could have, 10,000 followers, but they're all disinterested and they'll never purchase from you. Or you could have 100 really highly engaged followers that are continually purchasing. And that's where you'll find your financial success and where you'll reach your goals faster if you've actually got a loyal following rather than just the big numbers.
Yeah. I mean, 100 customers that buy, a candle every couple of months or so, that'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
When you start your candle business, there are so many things to consider and research along the way, especially when it comes to choosing the right suppliers. Long Story Short provides all your design and printing needs, from your logo and branding to designing and printing your product labels. The quality is exceptional, the customer service is amazing, and prices are very reasonable. They're the only label company I recommend, so check out their website or send them an email today to get started. hello@longstoryshortdesign.com.au.
Can you provide some insights into the role of storytelling when it comes to marketing?
The way that marketing is evolving at the moment, there's a lot of talk about authenticity and storytelling, which I love, which I totally agree with. Storytelling it's not easy for a lot of people. I'm not sure what sort of insights I can provide other than to say if writing, if words, if telling stories isn't your thing, then seek help. It's a really good idea to sit down and write your story, write out your why, write out the things that make your business, your candles special. And don't think that there's details that are too boring. Like, where you source the scents from, what they remind you of, why you put them together, why you do this, why it's this shape, like all of these things, who you buy the wicks from. I don't know, like don't skimp on any of the details, write it all out and then break it down into little chunks and tell those stories over and over again. There's a lot of people, if they feel like they're always repeating themselves and that's a bad thing, but it's a good thing. I mean, repetition is a huge part of brand recognition. It's been around since forever. So social media is no different. Yeah. So just keep telling those stories in different ways.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you talk about repeating the content, because my next question was about repurposing content across the different platforms. And I believe I've heard you say on your social media, and I completely agree, is that not everyone will see all of your content all the time. So just because you're repeating or you're repurposing your content across your emails or your website or your social media or however you're interacting with your customers and potential customers, as you say, having that repetition helps to build that brand recognition and brand awareness. And not everyone's going to hear everything you say. So it's important to, instead of constantly thinking of ways to reinvent the wheel when it comes to marketing, if you're able to retell your stories and, change them slightly, but then have something in your email and then put it on your social media and then have other sections elsewhere, it makes sense because it makes the creative process a lot easier for you as well.
Yeah, it really does. And when I say repetition's okay or repurposing's okay, one thing that really grates is when I see exactly the same thing come out. If I'm connected to someone, if I'm following someone, I'm generally following them on multiple platforms. And it really grates when the exact same piece of content just gets flogged out across the email, it's on the blog, it's on the Instagram, it's on LinkedIn, and just goes, and they just kind of push it all out there and it's identical. I don't think that's a great way to repurpose content, because the more that people feel like you're repeating yourself, the less likely they are to engage. One way to do it is to think about something that you talk about all the time. So if you, I can't think of an example, but maybe the fragrances that you use, or maybe you've got like a Christmas range that are coming out. If you sit down and spend an hour or two, you could write a whole stack of different pieces of content around that Christmas range that you're working on, planning it out, how you've designed the scents, what they smell like, what kind of memories they evoke. You can think about reels, you can think about gifting, you think about Black Friday sales, like all of this content around this one particular product or product range. And when you get in a flow like that, it's really easy to create content that's not repetitive, that just kind of continues that story in a different way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Instead of just like regurgitating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is a lot of the stuff that you do now is relevant next year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're making Christmas content now, make it for next year as well. And then all you have to do is sub in different, if you've got a different range of scents or a different package deal or whatever it is, you just sub in those different things, new photos, new reel, or like new video. The content's going to be virtually the same. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid. Mother's Day, like the stuff that you did on Mother's Day, if it was successful, jazz it up, change it around a little bit, and boom, you're ready for next Mother's Day. And then you can have it all sitting there in your drafts, ready to go at an appropriate time and get in ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important to think the content we're creating, as you say, is able to be repurposed the following year. We can keep it going, we can recycle it, rather than think I have to think of something completely new or completely different. If something was successful, it's bound to be successful again. So share it with your new followers, share it with your existing followers, because the follower numbers will constantly fluctuate. That's just the nature of it. So what you're sharing will be seen by new eyes, regardless of if the social media algorithms are constantly changing.
Yeah, 100%. And nobody will notice. Nobody will notice. They might, some people who are deeply connected to you, so like family or friends or, customers or Instagram business buddies or whatever, they might kind of go, oh, I feel like she's done that before. who cares? They don't care because they're already connected to you. Yeah. So I just think every single year, plan ahead, make a stack of content around those important things, and then just jazz it up and do it again.
Yeah. Not everyone is following just one person.
No.
They're following multiple accounts, multiple people. So the chances of them seeing the same content from you and thinking, oh, that's the exact same content, I'm going to unfollow you, chances of that happening are really low. If anything, they'll be like, oh, I remember that, or oh, that reminds me of the last thing I read, or, it's about, acting more, working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely. And, we are so deep in our own business and it feels repetitive. It feels silly sometimes. It feels boring. Like most of what I do is sit at my desk and write strategy. It's like so boring. But to other people, having that window on into a world that's different, being able to connect with you personally, instead of just being, transactional, all of that stuff is actually really important and really nice and not boring and not repetitive. So sometimes you just got to get out of your head. And that's why I think having a bit of a plan or a strategy in place can be really helpful, because you can actually think about things like sales messaging and even dumb stuff like what hashtags am I going to use? Sometimes they can be sometimes you can actually spend so much time thinking about stupid stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, hashtags can be important, but, not 20 minutes sitting looking at what hashtags other people are using and, before you hit post.
Yeah.
But yeah, so having a bit of a plan in place and getting things ready. If you feel weird about sales messaging, having all your sales calls to actions ready to go, so you just copy and paste them. That could be a really good way to get over it. So you distance yourself from actually coming up with that sales messaging. That's what I should have said before. Is a big mistake that people make with their social media is forgetting sales messaging or being embarrassed about selling things. That's why people are on Instagram. People are looking for stuff to buy. Yeah. They love it. It's totally fine.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're not promoting your own products, they're not necessarily going to go straight to your website if there is no call to action, or if there is no reminder that this particular product is on sale or this particular product has just been launched. If you're not talking about it, they're not necessarily going to know what's going on in your business. In fact, they probably won't know what's going on in your business if you're not talking about it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to grab people by the hand and just lead them through and say, and you can buy this. Or
yeah, exactly.
It's now on sale, or do you know someone who you could gift this to, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's right. So we touched on before about the social media algorithms, and I'm curious, what tips do you have for us small businesses to stay ahead of the changes, or at least stay current?
It's almost impossible to stay ahead of the algorithms.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of these social media platforms are just changing constantly, and they have different motivations. Most of the motivations they say are to disseminate good content. So, if I wanted to be really kind of blasé about it, I would say make good content, but it's not that easy. The main thing to remember with algorithms is that they are there and they are looking for data. They need to understand what your post is about in order to find the audience for it, or in order to promote your content into the feeds of the right people. So, when you think about data that an algorithm is going to be interested in, it's words. It could be songs. So, it could be a song that's trending for a particular reason. It could be your face. It could be the fact that you've got a picture of a candle and that, your audience is out there looking for candles. And so, they're looking for you. So there's all of these things that you can do. What you shouldn't do is forget that those algorithms exist. So you want to engage your customers, you want to engage your followers with language, relatable content, exciting news, whatever it is. But you cannot forget that in order to get to those people, you've got to go through this little robot first. And so that robot's got to understand what you're talking about. It won't guess. If it doesn't know, so if you just plop up a beautiful photo of a candle and say, check it out, or new fragrance just dropped, that's not enough. So yeah, in order to, I mean, look, really, like I said, there's no way to keep ahead of this stuff. The other thing too is thinking about each of these channels a little bit differently and making sure that you're using them the way that they're designed to be used. Post and ghost, you cannot do. It's really good. Having these scheduling tools is amazing. But the trap that you can get into is being really organized and scheduling all your content and just having it sort of go off at whatever times and not actually being present in the apps enough. That will hurt you in the algorithm's eyes. So you do need to make sure that you're engaging with other accounts. You need to make sure you're driving messages. You need to make sure you're posting in all the different areas. So on Instagram, I think the other day I worked out there was like 15 or more than 15 now kind of places where your content can be seen.
Oh, wow.
And so making sure that you're cruising around looking at stuff and just engaging with people is important. Using Facebook groups to push and pull people to you, thinking about different channels. Pinterest is amazing. Pinterest could be something that could drive a stack of website traffic to you, and maybe you've not really thought about it. Maybe you're terrified of TikTok, which is fair. Yeah, I don't know. It's our algorithms, they're a hard one. I mean, I'm not going to bore anyone by going through how they kind of work, but
it's important to remember that they are there and that the social media the social media owners, their motivations are different to what your motivations are for your business. So you have to play the game, in essence.
You do have to play the game. Instagram has been very, very vocal about who the platform is for and who they are supporting. And you can see it. They support creators and influencers. They're giving them ways to make money. They're giving them extra benefits. They're giving them extra visibility. So if you're just a small business, I mean, Instagram doesn't really care about you. And, sometimes if you're really struggling to reach and engage the audience that you need, and if the audience that you have has kind of dried up and, they're just not present, sometimes you actually need to do paid ads. I know it can be a kick in the guts when you're not making a huge amount of money, but the investment, if you do it properly, the investment can be really worth it, and it can mean that, it opens you up to a whole range of actual customers, just to kind of fill that pipeline again.
It's funny, when this episode comes out, there'll be already another episode with a paid ads expert. So brilliant. If you haven't already, go back and listen to that episode and get some tips and tricks on how to delve into the world of paid advertising. So definitely worth exploring if you're wanting to take your business seriously and just do what other businesses are doing.
Yeah, that word seriously is important. Organic social media, organic marketing can be great, and you will see a lot of people who are really, really successful. But it's really interesting sometimes when I see people who have really great sort of organic marketing, and then I go and I check out what they're doing, and they've got stacks and stacks of paid ads running as well. And I don't know if anyone knows this, but you can actually go to someone's Facebook page, and if you go to the About section, you can go to transparency and you can see all the ads that they're running, and you can use that to kind of inspire you or to see what other people are doing. That's something to just keep in mind. Yeah,
it's not all about organic growth. You need to think, if I want to grow my business, if you want to grow your business more quickly, more efficiently, you need to at least consider paid advertising.
Yeah, you got to reinvest in yourself. In the same way that you invest in your products, sometimes you do have to invest in advertising, because it will cut your time and your stress right back. Unfortunately, look, I don't think these accounts are 100% pay to play, but it certainly does make things easier. And particularly if I was a commerce business, I I would advertise all the time. It just makes sense. I mean, advertising it's an important part of that e-commerce business, and everyone does it. So if you're not doing it, yeah, you're not visible.
Yeah, that's right. And it could be the difference between your candle business being seen as opposed to the myriad of other candle businesses that are already advertising. You sort of leave yourself outside of, getting a slice of the pie.
Yeah. And, the organic stuff is beautiful for when people, if someone sees an ad and they go and check you out and they want to see what other fragrances you have or what you like, or maybe they've purchased from you and you've put a nice little handwritten card in the box or something and ask them to follow you on Instagram, and they go back and they follow you on Instagram. So, it can be a good way to keep your customers engaged. Anyway, I won't bang on too much about paid ads because somebody else is going to do that, and that makes me happy.
Well, in that case, I'll ask you about ChatGPT and how candle makers can potentially utilize that for their business. What would your thoughts be on using AI to grow your business?
Oh, ChatGPT is a funny one. It is such an amazing tool, but it's only as good as you only get out good stuff if you put in good stuff. And so if you're going to use ChatGPT, I really highly recommend that you look into how to use it well. The prompts that you put in are really, really important, giving it context, making sure that you tweak it to sound like you is really important, because all I see on social media now is like lists with emojis and it's just so verbatim ChatGPT. And there's like lots of words that are dead giveaways because it uses the same words over and over again. And so again, going back to what I think I said at the start, is making sure that you don't sound like everybody else, that you don't do the same things as everyone else. ChatGPT is an amazing time saver, an amazing jumping off point if you're going to be writing things like blogs to drive SEO, to drive traffic to your website. It's a fabulous way to get a blog post in like 2 minutes that you can go and refine and tweak to be in your voice for your audience. And then it's an amazing tool. I was actually just showing someone the other day, he'd never even heard of it. And he said that the biggest blocker for him was words. He just couldn't write words. It just wasn't his thing. And I said, oh, you should use ChatGPT. And he was like, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that even English? What does that mean?
So I showed him, and he sells machines. Anyway, so we went through and we wrote manuals. We did YouTube scripts. We did social media posts. We wrote blogs. We did all of this stuff just for this one particular thing that he sells. And his mind was blown, but he could see the opportunity to go then back in and tweak it. So ChatGPT is amazing, guys and gals out there, but please make sure that you have a brand voice, that you have a personality, and that you make sure that you use it all the time. One little tip is when you get a good prompt for ChatGPT. So what I mean by a prompt is, if you haven't used it before, is you basically ask it to do something for you. So you give it a prompt. Is actually coming up with the context. So it might be, and keeping that. So keeping that saved somewhere so that you use it over and over again so that it can remember. And so that context might be, you are a candle maker who specializes in using recycled teacups, like whatever it is that you do. Write out this really detailed prompt, this context, this background about who you are. And remember to ask it to use the kind of language that you use. So if you say plain language, it's okay. If you say casual language, it says really dumb stuff like "G'day, mate." Da, da, da. Anyway, and sorry, I probably talked about that too much, but yeah, look, AI is great. I went to was at a conference, an online conference that Kate Toon organised recently. And there are a lot of amazing tools out there. Another fabulous way that you can use AI is with your photos. Photos and videos are so important to selling. And if you're not a good photographer and you don't have the budget to use a professional, there's a lot of amazing tools out there. And I'll have to think of some that just off the top of my head now that I'm talking about it, where you can drop your candle into some backgrounds with a little bit of tweaking with AI, and it looks, it looks real. It looks like a photo that you could have taken. You'll see a lot of artists use that kind of technology to put their art on people's walls. People like to imagine themselves using that product. So just showing the candle in, on your kitchen bench or in your workshop or wherever it is, that might not cut it. You might want to show it in a scene, telling a story.
Yeah. So many good tips. So, Erika, we've come to one of my favorite parts of the podcast where I ask all my guests 3 questions relating to candles. So, number 1 is, what is your favorite candle fragrance?
Oh, I like anything with a bit of sandalwood in it, or anything that's kind of linen, like a fresh kind of smell. I can't stand anything sort of vanilla or honeysuckle or like those really fragrant ones. I've actually got a candle burning right now, which I think it's called Comfort Linen.
Oh, beautiful.
From the Gay Farmer, who's a local candle maker down here.
Oh, I love that. Number 2, what do you love about candles?
I find candles, I burn candles all the time, and I find them really soothing. They're really soothing to watch, but also just more than anything, it's just, they really set the mood, in the house. So whatever you're burning at the time, it's just like a constant reminder of something fresh or something different is happening in your space. It's not just the regular space. So I quite often burn candles when I'm working, so that, when I stop, when I pause, I become aware of it, and it's a really nice kind of soothing feeling. So
that's beautiful. And then the last question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to give to candle makers during their journey?
That's a really hard one. I actually did think about it. I think the one piece of advice I would like to impart is to find what makes you special, and remember that, and hang on to it and use it for your storytelling, using it for your marketing, but really understand what makes you special. And if you don't know what that is, or you're not sure, or you feel that imposter syndrome creeping in, go and find what people say about you. Grab all of your testimonials, ask people, grab all of the messages that people have sent you about how happy they are with their purchase, and look for commonalities, look for words that people use. And you'll find that tells a bit of story about what it is that makes you special, what makes your brand special, what makes your products special. And then that can be something that you can kind of hang on to.
Yeah. And definitely it will help in those moments of low motivation or feeling like you've got imposter syndrome. When you go back and look at the testimonials and the feedback and know that what you're doing really is making a difference and that you're helping people, it can help spur you on when you're not feeling, not necessarily feeling in the right mindset. Yeah,
it is. It's seeing yourself through another person's lens can be really hard, but it's really important, because the thing that makes you special is the reason why people buy from you and the reason why they buy again. And being able to communicate that. So if one of the reasons that people keep saying is that the candles make them feel, a particular emotion, then talk about that in your marketing.
Erika, for any of the listeners that would love to learn more about you or connect with you, where can we find you online?
I am in all the usual places. Mostly I hang out on Instagram, Mac_Ernie, or LinkedIn. Come find me on LinkedIn. You might have to look at my surname. It's a bit of a doozy. Or Facebook. I've got a Facebook group. You know, I'm all over the place
All over
at
the
the
place.
moment, and I've got a new website coming out soon. So yeah.
Amazing. So exciting. Well, I'll pop all of your links in the show notes so people can connect in and follow up with you and let you know what they thought of our episode as well. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you so, so much for being on the podcast today and sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and expertise. I really appreciate it.
You are very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening today. I hope this episode added value to your candle making journey. Check out the show notes for all the links mentioned throughout today's show, and please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for listening. Have a beautiful day.